Scientific study indicates God is now dead. For some time now many people have wondered whether God is still alive. They base their concern on various facts. The world is in a far worse state than when Jesus was here 2,000 years ago, but there has been no divine intervention to prevent huge catastrophes from happening, war from occurring, or needless deaths from drugs or guns. The rise of diseases, and the death of innocent children from such diseases, indicates there is no hand on the tiller which acts to prevent such deaths. The wayward sexual behavior of many religious figures, and cover-ups by their churches, indicate much of the Christian philosophy now lacks direction from above. Non-believers are becoming endemic amongst society, and many of these people lead happy, fulfilling lives, without the need for religious guidance. Much of the Judeo-Christian teachings don't appear to make sense. In example, the story concerning the creation of Adam and Eve is now seen as a childish myth by many. The myth involves a man being created from dust, in God's image, in a fruit orchard called the Garden of Eden, and told he cannot eat from the tree of knowledge. Whilst he sleeps, a female is fashioned from one of his ribs and lies beside him. Whilst wandering around the garden, the female discovers a talking snake, which is odd, because all snakes are deaf to airborne sounds. Also, snakes lack the pharyngeal structures to permit speech, and after some discussion, Adam is persuaded to eat from the tree of knowledge. This results in him being banished from the Garden of Eden, and as a result, his descendants, and any offspring of those descendants, will be responsible for their sins. All of this doesn't appear to have bothered Adam unduly, as he lived to the ripe old age of 930 years, and fathered numerous children, the first of whom, Cain, married his sister Aswan, and murdered his brother Abel. However, findings in population genetics, particularly those concerning Y-chromosomal Adam and mitochondrial Eve, indicate that a single first Adam and Eve pair of human beings never existed. Currently there are around 200 different belief systems around the world based upon the Judeo-Christian faith. Around 60 of these are in the USA. Almost all of them indicate that they alone are the correct version, or brand, of Christianity, and followers of another brand will find it impossible, very difficult to enter heaven after they have passed away. Catholicism embraced and promoted religious beliefs in the Middle Ages by selling indulgences, forgiveness for sins and exemptions from purgatory and hell. Indeed, the Butter Tower of Rouen Cathedral earned its nickname because the money to build it was raised by the sale of indulgences allowing the use of butter during Lent. When you think about it, Christianity may all be about power and control. It seems to be a trait of humankind that seeking power over others is a goal to work for. How many times throughout history do we see power exercised as a control over others? We see it all the time in our everyday lives, from individuals in the workplace who revel in the exercise of power, to political movements who actively fight each other at the ballot box to secure power, through to dictatorships which cling to power like those in North Korea, Iran, Sudan, Rwanda, Cambodia, China, Chad and scores of others. Religion is all about power and control. It has long been a Judeo-Christian belief that intercession works. Intercession is the act of interceding, by intercessory prayer, on behalf of another. In example, if a loved one is experiencing difficult times in their life, a prayer to God or a saint, in the form of an entreaty or petition requesting the loved one be granted some help or benefit that will favor them, is often made. All brands of Christianity appear to share this belief. It is a power they hold over the believer, a form of coercion.
There are few things about the Christian faith which are verifiable in a scientific setting, but intercession appears to be one of them. The fact it is common to all Christian religions, and many non-Christian ones, make it an ideal candidate for scientific research. If prayers are no longer answered, then it appears that God may be dead. There will always be coincidences, where occasionally someone recovers unexpectedly from a disease or malady, but if such coincidences are within normal limits, they would not indicate divine intervention. To establish definitively whether or not intercession works, a study was made under rigorous scientific conditions. The study examined whether remote intercessory prayer influenced recovery after coronary artery bypass graft surgery and whether the certainty of being prayed for was associated with better outcomes. The study architecture was a triple-blind, randomized controlled study comprised of 1,802 patients in 6 hospitals in the USA. 604 patients were prayed for after being informed that they may or may not be prayed for. 597 were not prayed for after similarly being informed that they may or may not be prayed for. And 601 were prayed for after being informed they would definitely be prayed for. The study was published in the American Heart Journal. Link in description. 3 mainstream religious sites were involved, and those patients assigned to receive prayers had him commence one day before surgery, and for 2 weeks afterwards. Results of the study. In the 2 groups that did not know for certain whether or not they were being prayed for, complications occurred in 52% of patients who received intercessory prayer and in 51% of those who did not. In contrast, complications occurred a significantly larger proportion of patients, 59%, who knew for certain that they were being prayed for, major events and 30-day mortality rates, however, were similar across the 3 groups. The study showed that remote intercessory prayer did not improve outcomes after coronary artery bypass graft surgery. In fact, the knowledge of being prayed for was associated with a slightly but significantly higher rate of post-surgical complications. What does this imply? The results would strongly suggest that God is no longer accepting intercessory prayers made on behalf of another Christian. This implies he is no longer able to. If we look around us and see the appalling statistics relating to recreational drug use, violent crime, the proliferation of nuclear weapons, diseases which kill indiscriminately, the rise in crime across all genres, a world full of chaos and uncertainty, then it seems that there is no kind and loving God which controls events on earth, especially one who previously so loved the world he gave his only begotten Son. This donation of his Son appears to have been a waste of effort. The question now needs to be asked is, how did God die? Was it old age? Possible causes of God's death. Old age is certainly a factor. After all, the universe is almost 14 billion years old, and assuming he created it, he must be of at least equivalency in terms of years. Other theories abound, some of which are, God was in the process of creating a supermassive black hole, and something went wrong. He was sucked into it, and even his powers were insufficient to allow his escape. It is a fact that organisms evolve, and one organism may have evolved to the extent he sickened and died after becoming infected. On one of his travels through interstellar space, he was struck unawares by a piece of space debris, or meteorite, causing him to lose his balance and crash into a star, causing him to burn up. He became so depressed after seeing the results of his handiwork on Earth, he just took his own life. It may be the death of God is not such a bad thing. It may serve to make people seek meaning in the evolution of life, which may seem more logical to many than the belief that God created everything, and then just inserted the fossils correctly in different layers of rock, such as the Achaean, Ordovician, Cambrian, Paleozoic, Silurian, etc., etc., which corresponded to the evolution of life. Why would he do this unless he wished to mislead people? Once it is generally accepted there is no longer a God, and by extension, no longer a heaven or a devil, then it might encourage people to be more responsible for their actions, rather than hiding behind a belief that whatever happens is God's will, thus relieving them of any responsibility in the matter. Previous gods have come and gone. The ancient Greeks had Zeus, Hera, Poseidon, Apollo, Artemis, etc., etc., all of which they pray to. The Romans also had a whole pantheon of gods such as Jupiter and Juno, Neptune and Minerva, Mars and Venus, Apollo and Diana, Vulcan and Vesta, Mercury and Ceres, all of which they also prayed to, so it seems gods come and go. And we shouldn't bemoan the disappearance of the latest one.